Have you ever ordered like a new planner or notebook online?
Oh, yeah.
And, you're excited for it to arrive, and then it gets to you, and the spiral is bent.
Ugh, the worst.
It's so deflating.
Yeah, it is like you're so excited to get started, and then
It feels
it's all messed up.
crooked.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, man, what happened there?
It makes you wonder about the whole shipping process, doesn't it?
Definitely for like, did they just like throw it in the truck?
Yeah, exactly. And that whole frustration, the saga of the bent spiral,
The bent spiral saga.
that's what we're diving into today.
Ooh, interesting.
And we've got some really good insights from the folks at Lion Paper.
Okay, cool.
Now, they're a manufacturer, so they've obviously dealt with this
I
problem.
know they're actually shipping these out.
Exactly. They know what they're talking about.
Okay, so we're getting like real world experience here.
Exactly. We're going to dig into their experience.
Love it.
See what kind of packaging wisdom we can uncover. So they're not just guessing at solutions. They're sharing what they've actually learned
Okay.
from shipping these things out every day.
Day in, day out.
So our mission today is to really understand why these simple items
Right.
can be so tricky to ship.
Yeah, seems like it should be easy.
Great, just put it in a box.
Yeah,
But it's more complicated than that.
apparently so.
But more importantly, we want to give you some strategies, some concrete strategies
Okay.
to make sure your planners and notebooks arrive
In pristine condition.
looking perfect.
Absolutely.
Whether you run a business or you just like to know the details behind e-commerce,
Uh-huh.
understanding how to avoid that bent spiral,
The dreaded bent spiral.
it's key to a good experience, right?
Makes a big difference.
So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Why is a spiral binding such a challenge to ship?
Well, I think it really comes down to the design of the spiral itself.
Right.
I mean, you think about it, it's not like a solid piece.
It's just like a thin wire.
It's a bunch of loops all connected together.
Right.
So any kind of pressure, any little bump during shipping can actually bend those loops out of shape.
You would think it would be a little more durable.
But you'd think so.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite delicate.
And Lion Paper says even one impact can be enough to bend it.
Really, just one little bump.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I guess so.
And it's not just about looks either, right?
No, absolutely not.
If the spiral's bent, the whole notebook doesn't really work the way it should.
Exactly. It can make the pages misalign.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
So annoying.
You can't even write properly.
And they might tear more easily or even become like completely unusable.
That's the worst.
Yeah, it's just a frustrating experience for the customer.
And you know what happens then?
Returns.
Returns and bad reviews.
Nobody wants that.
And apparently this is a pretty widespread problem.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a statistic that says 30% of online shoppers
Wow.
report receiving damaged items.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a lot of unhappy customers.
Yeah, that's a pretty significant number.
So it really affects, your future choices too,
As a consumer.
right? Like if I get something damaged, I'm probably not going to order from that company again.
Yeah. I mean, why would you?
You just lose trust.
Exactly. It just kind of puts you off.
Okay, so beyond the spiral, what are some other common problems
Okay.
that can happen during shipping?
Well, you've got things like scuffing of the covers
Oh, yeah.
and damage from moisture.
Right.
So scuffing can happen when the notebooks rub against each other.
Right. Or against the packaging.
Exactly. And it can leave those marks that you don't want to see
Well,
on a brand new notebook.
especially if it's like a nice, leather cover or something.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And moisture damage.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one for paper products, obviously.
Right. I mean, if they get exposed to any kind of dampness.
Rain or even just like humidity,
Yeah.
that can really warp the pages.
Yeah, and then they're pretty much unusable.
Yeah, it makes sense when you think about it. These packages, they're going through a lot.
They really are.
Bouncing around in trucks, sitting in warehouses.
Who knows what conditions they're in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's another interesting statistic here that shows
Okay.
the business side of this.
Uh-huh.
About 20% of consumers have said that they won't reorder
Wow.
from companies that don't package their products properly.
That's a big chunk of your customer base.
Yeah, so it's not just about, avoiding a bent wire.
Right.
It's about keeping your customers happy.
And your business thriving.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've talked about the problems.
Yeah.
Let's get to the solutions.
Let's get to the good stuff.
What does Lion Paper recommend?
Okay, well, what's interesting here
Okay.
is that they're not just reactive, they're really proactive about this.
I like that.
They have specific strategies that they use.
Okay.
And one of their key techniques
Yeah.
is called staggered spiral binding packaging.
Staggered spiral binding package.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
What is that?
Actually a pretty simple but clever idea.
Okay.
So when they're packing multiple notebooks together,
Mm-hmm.
they don't just stack them all flat with the spirals all lined up.
Oh,
They alternate them. They stagger them.
right.
So the spirals aren't pressing directly on top of each other,
I see.
which obviously reduces the pressure and the chance of bending.
It's like a simple change, but it makes a big difference.
Huge difference.
So instead of a stack of spirals
Right.
all lined up,
Yeah.
they're kind of offset. So
Exactly.
there's less direct pressure.
Exactly.
Okay, that's cool.
And their second main solution is what they call inner box and outer carton.
A box within a box.
Basically, yeah. So they pack the product securely in a durable inner box.
Okay.
And then that inner box goes inside a sturdy outer carton.
Double protection.
Exactly. It's like an extra layer of defense against impacts.
Okay, I like it.
So the inner box keeps things nice and stable,
Uh-huh.
and the outer carton takes the brunt of any external forces.
Makes sense. Now, they also mention palletized shipping with corner guards.
Okay.
Which might seem more relevant to like large shipments.
Yeah, if you're sending out a whole pallet of notebooks.
Right, but what's the takeaway here, even for, an individual buyer?
Well, even if you're not shipping pallets yourself,
Right.
it's good to understand how this works because it affects you.
Okay.
So palletizing means stacking boxes on a pallet
Right.
so they can be moved around easily with forklifts.
Okay.
But the important part here is the corner guards.
Corner guards.
Yeah, they're usually made of cardboard or plastic,
Okay.
and they go around the edges of the pallet.
Mm-hmm.
And their job is to absorb any shocks.
I see.
So if the pallet gets bumped,
Right.
or if the straps that are holding it together are too tight,
Yeah.
the corner guards prevent damage to the boxes.
So even if my individual box is on that pallet,
Right.
it's getting that extra protection.
Exactly. It's all part of a larger system.
Okay, cool. Now let's talk about the packaging materials themselves. So what are some options for outer packaging?
Okay, well, they break it down into a few main categories.
Okay.
You've got your bubble mailers,
Yeah.
which are good for like small
Yep.
shipments, single items.
Right. Lightweight, cost effective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you've got padded envelopes,
Okay.
which offer a bit more protection than a plain bubble mailer, but they're still good for like, a few items.
Right.
And then if you're shipping in bulk, or if you really want the maximum protection,
Yeah.
you go with boxes.
Boxes.
They're more rigid, they can withstand more pressure.
Makes sense. And of course, there's always bubble wrap.
Oh yeah, the classic bubble
A
wrap.
classic for a reason.
Always good to have some of that on hand.
Now, what about what goes inside the package, like right around the notebook itself?
Ah, the internal supports.
Yeah.
These are crucial.
Okay.
So you want to use things like cardboard inserts
Okay.
to prevent bending, so you can put them on either side of the notebook
Okay.
to create a kind of stiffer barrier. You can also use tissue paper or thin cardboard
Uh-huh.
between multiple notebooks to prevent scratching,
Right.
and then foam padding.
Oh, yeah.
It's great for absorbing impacts.
Yeah. And just keeping everything snug.
Exactly.
Now, something that's important to a lot of people these days is sustainability.
Absolutely.
How does eco-friendly packaging fit into all of this?
Well, it's becoming more and more important.
Yeah.
People are really paying attention to the environmental impact.
Right.
So using recycled materials,
Uh-huh.
biodegradable packing peanuts.
Instead of the styrofoam ones.
Exactly, and choosing recyclable cardboard.
Yeah.
These are all good options.
And it actually makes a difference to consumers.
It does. There was a statistic that said 73% of consumers
Wow.
prefer brands that are committed to sustainability.
So it's not just a feel-good thing. It actually affects your bottom line.
Exactly. It's good business.
But, there's always the balance between cost and protection.
Right.
How do you weigh those factors?
Well, I think it's about finding solutions that give you good protection
Uh-huh.
while also being mindful of the environment
Right.
and not breaking the bank.
Exactly.
And sometimes, eco-friendly options can be a little more expensive,
Uh-huh.
but not always.
Right.
Like recycled cardboard can be quite competitive.
Okay.
So you just have to do a little research.
Right.
But the one thing you don't want to do is compromise on protection.
Yeah.
Because if the product gets damaged,
Right.
you're going to end up with returns,
And unhappy customers.
which ends up costing you more in the long run.
Exactly. Okay, so let's go through the actual packing process.
Okay.
Line paper gives us a little mini tutorial here.
They do a nice job of breaking it down.
So the first step is preparing the product.
Right. So before you even put anything in a box,
Yeah.
you want to inspect each item,
Okay.
make sure it's in perfect condition,
Mm-hmm.
and they recommend individually wrapping each item
Okay.
with cardboard or tissue paper.
To protect against scratches and stuff?
Exactly. It's that first line of defense.
Okay, what's next?
Then the next step is securing the spiral binding.
Okay.
And this is really important because as we've seen, those spirals are delicate.
Yeah.
So you want to use cardboard inserts or some kind of rigid support.
To keep it from bending.
Exactly. You could create like a little cardboard sleeve for the spiral.
Oh, I like that.
Or just use a stiff piece of cardstock next to it.
Yeah. As long as it's protected.
Right.
Okay, and then the final packaging stage.
All right, so this is where you put everything together. So you take your wrapped and protected notebooks.
Yeah.
And you put them in your outer packaging.
Whatever that may be.
Right. Your bubble mailer, your padded envelope, your box. And you want to make sure it's a snug fit.
Right.
But not too tight.
Right. You don't want to crush anything.
Exactly. Then you seal it up well with strong tape.
Good tape.
Yes. And make sure it's clearly labeled.
Shipping address, return address.
The whole 9 yards.
Okay, now once the package leaves your hands, it's up to the shipping carrier.
Right.
What should you keep in mind when you're choosing a carrier?
Well, they suggest comparing different carriers like USPS, UPS, FedEx.
Okay, the usual suspects.
Yeah, and you want to look at their reliability, their cost for your package size and weight.
Right.
And how fast they deliver.
Especially if you have customers waiting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And tracking is really important too.
Yeah.
So you and your customer can see where the package is.
Peace of mind.
Exactly.
Right.
And if it's a valuable item, get insurance.
Just in case.
Always a good idea.
Okay, so it's not just about the cheapest option.
Right. It's about finding the right balance.
Reliability, cost, speed.
And those extra services like tracking and insurance.
Okay, now, even with the best packaging, sometimes things can still go wrong.
It happens.
So how do you keep improving your shipping process?
Well, they really emphasize being proactive.
Okay.
So they suggest doing trial shipment.
Always a good idea.
Yeah, you can see how your packaging holds up in real-world conditions.
Right.
And even more importantly, they say, get feedback from your customers.
Oh, yeah.
Ask them about their experience.
Did they receive it? Okay.
Exactly. Was the packaging sufficient?
That's valuable information.
It's the best way to know what's working and what's not.
And then you can adjust.
Exactly. It's a continuous improvement process.
Okay. So to sum up, what have we learned today?
Well, we've seen how vulnerable spiral-bound items are.
Yeah.
To damage during shipping.
Ending scuffing moisture.
The trifecta of shipping hazards.
And we looked at Lion Paper's solutions.
The staggered packaging, the inner and outer boxes.
Palletizing with corner guards.
All good strategies.
We also talked about choosing the right materials.
Right. Your bubble mailers, your boxes, your internal supports.
And the importance of sustainability.
Finding that balance between cost protection and environmental impact.
And we went through a step-by-step packing process.
Right, from preparing the product to sealing it up.
And choosing the right carrier.
And constantly looking for ways to improve.
So it's not just about preventing damage.
Right.
It's about customer satisfaction.
And building a good reputation.
If you get that package and it's perfect,
Yeah.
it just reinforces that positive feeling about the company.
Absolutely.
And you're more likely to buy from them again.
Yeah. Makes you think, doesn't it?
About what?
Well, if all this thought goes into making sure a simple notebook arrives safely.
Yeah.
What other details are going on behind the scenes?
Right.
To make sure we have a good experience with all the products and services we use.
It's a good point.
Yeah. Makes you appreciate all the little things
Absolutely.
that we don't even think about.
That make a big difference.
Yeah. The unsung heroes of the shipping world.
And the consumer world.
Exactly.
Thanks for listening.
Catch you next time.